I need you to teach me something today.
Sure.
Okay. Don't make fun of me, but...
When have I ever? I would never, Salina. Just never.
What is a business event in Acumatica?
It's a good question because it's a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about a business event, you can do it based on 3 different criteria or 3 different trigger by scenarios, I think is what they're called. The first is you tell it to run. They call it an action. Think of that as I'm on a generic inquiry. I've got a bunch of records and there's a little checkbox next to each of them. I pick the ones I want to do. I click the button and I say, run that business event or that action. So that's the first one. It has a lot of applications. Second one is run it on a schedule. So basically set a schedule to run every hour and pick these things up and process them in the way that I tell it. And the third one is on a record change. And that one is, given this criteria, trigger this action.
Okay.
So interestingly enough.
So, sorry.
No,
so it's a if-then situation.
All of them but the action one, yes.
Okay.
The action one does not have, oh gosh, now I'm drawn, I believe it does not have criteria, right? So you don't tell it only trigger in this circumstance because you are the criteria.
Okay.
You're saying on these trigger.
Okay. So
you set a source screen. Usually it's an inquiry of some kind. Mm-hmm. It could be a custom one. And you say, okay, use the invoices memos, let's say. Mm-hmm. And that's my source screen. My action is send an email. That's what I call it. That's what the business event is. And then you have different subscribers that you can put in that run. And so these subscribers can be anything from a new task that gets created, an import scenario that you can use the information from given GI in. I think there's a bunch of other ones, but the import one's what I use the most. Email is another one. You can actually push to Teams in some scenarios. So like if you have the Teams integration, you can push a business event into a channel.
So what would that look like? So you're pushing a business event into a Teams channel, and then what would the end product look like? It's like
a message in that case. So that's more of a note. So like I think you can do SMS. I think that's the other one. So, which requires some special setup.
So would it be like, okay, something triggers in the system and then it's notifying the employee or the user or a specific user, like, oh, this person clocked out at this time or whatever. And you get a notification, either an email, a text. Okay.
So going with the invoice and memo scenario, let's say one of them moves from open to closed. Mm-hmm. I could trigger a business event that's given that scenario that says it used to be open, now it's closed as the condition. Trigger an email to accounting at Strategies Group, whatever, accounting at the company. And then in the email, you can use the reference number of the invoice, the amount, the customer, all the information from the source generic inquiry, and you can put it in the email. So it's like here's something that happened.
Okay.
If that's the same to the Teams channel, you could do the same thing. Like here's the information, send it there. Usually I incorporate a link back into Acumatica in case someone wants to check the record. Mm-hmm. So that's one side. That's like sending information, letting somebody know this has happened.
Okay.
You can also, you can attach reports to those emails. Okay. So you can use the data that drives the event to trigger a report with that data. So it could be this customer paid their open invoice of this amount and attach a report that shows an aging report from the customer. I don't know, something like that related to that.
Or if you got said invoice, sends cash flow report to just anytime cash flow changes, sends a report. So you get a customer paid for something. Okay, I need an update on it. You could set that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can trigger all sorts of different reports and attach them. You can even embed them, which I've done a few times. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of ways you could use the notification portion. Mm-hmm. The update portion is interesting. The import scenario, a little bit more complicated. So usually customers don't build those on their own. It's usually work with us to do it. Yeah. Some of them do. They don't have to be incredibly complicated, but you create an import scenario and you use the data from the generic inquiry, so reference number 9995 triggered, you pass that in as the reference number we're going to update in the import scenario. And then you do your actions, whatever they may be. And that's not a real good example because you don't do a lot with it's paid, it's closed, you don't need it. But let's say someone closes an opportunity and they click one of the buttons, but you need another checkbox to be checked, or you need another data point to be filled, or whatever it may be, or a percentage to be calculated. You can run an import scenario that will update that record with that information.
Okay, so this is for when people are like, oh, I hate that I have to make 8 or 9 different clicks just for one thing to happen.
Yes.
This, you can set it up in the system that when these things trigger, please update these fields in the system.
Yep.
Okay.
Or update the status. It can do, the import scenarios are really powerful. They can do a ton of stuff. So you could also be updating a status or an action on the specific record or a related record, right? You could, if it's back to the invoice, you could go to the project because that's on the invoice, pass that in, and then run an action on the project like execute billing or whatever it may be, right? So it's really powerful. I know that's a very basic overview of how it works, but that's just kind of the bones of it, but it has thousands of uses. And that's where I think Acumatica gets really powerful. It lets you cater it to the customer.
It's true automation of tasks. Like when people are talking about digital transformation, or they're talking about AI, or they're talking about automating your workforce, or all those buzzwords, they're really talking about things like this. Yeah. And you can do that in Acumatica.
And we're moving in the direction of having actions that have some of those AI pieces in them. I don't know exactly, like they showed it at Summit, right? Yeah. So that's not truly out there yet, but that's where they're going, which is exciting. It's like, if this happens, run this prompt. Yeah. So there's some cool stuff that's going to overlap between the existing automations and business events and the AI powered ones in the future.
And what's to come, if you will.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, makes sense to me.
You're a consultant now.
Yeah, that's I'm officially a consultant.
Yeah. No, good deal. All right.